A well-known pastor and gospel singer has just been sentenced to prison in a deeply heartbreaking case. The outcome has left many stunned, not because justice was served, but because the sentence handed down feels far too lenient given the gravity of the situation. A plea deal changed everything, and that agreement significantly altered the course of this case. There's a lot to unpack here, and I'll be breaking it all down for you in just a moment, so I encourage you to stay with me through the entire video. Before we dive in, I want to extend a warm welcome to everyone joining us on the channel. For someone like me, this platform is one of the few ways I can raise awareness and speak out on issues that matter. If you could do me a huge favor, please hit that like button. It's a simple gesture that makes a big difference. My goal is to reach 1,000 likes on this video, and with your help, we can get this story in front of a much wider audience. Sharing this video across your social media platforms is another powerful way to support the cause. It helps amplify the message, increase visibility, and most importantly, expose the corruption that continues to plague certain corners of the church. We're here to call out the wolves in the pulpit and stand up for those who've been hurt, silenced, or betrayed. Let's talk about Pastor Kevin Mills. As I mentioned earlier, he's both a pastor and a gospel singer with deep roots in Canada. His journey began in Portage-la-Prairie, where his parents, traveling evangelists, founded Prairie Community Church back in 2002. Growing up in that environment, Kevin was immersed in ministry from a young age. He didn't just attend church, he actively participated, performing as a gospel country artist and ministering in various congregations across North America. His voice carried through countless sanctuaries, not only in his parents' church, but in many others where he was invited to sing and preach. Eventually, Kevin relocated to Washington State, where he took on the role of associate pastor at Rochester Life Assembly of God. It was a continuation of the path he'd been walking for years, a life seemingly devoted to faith, music, and service. On paper, Kevin Mills appeared to be the embodiment of a good man of God. He's a married father of 3, now 39 years old, with a background that suggests dedication, spiritual heritage, and a heart for ministry. Looking at his resume, his upbringing, and his public persona, you'd be inclined to believe he was someone trustworthy, someone who lived what he preached. But, as we'll soon uncover, appearances can be deceiving.
But sadly, that image of Kevin Mills as a devoted man of God was shattered in 2023. That's when disturbing revelations came to light. Allegations that Mills had been engaging in inappropriate behavior with a girl under the age of 12. At the time these actions were allegedly taking place, Mills was already living in Rochester, Washington, serving as an associate pastor. If anyone watching is from Washington State, feel free to sound off in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Now back to the timeline. Although the allegations surfaced in 2023, Mills wasn't arrested until 2024, and there's a reason for that delay, which I'll explain shortly. In 2023, it was reportedly his wife who first discovered what was happening. Initially, she referred to it as an affair, believing her husband was involved with a young woman. But as more details emerged, it became clear that this was far more serious than an extramarital relationship. What she uncovered would ultimately lead to criminal charges and a case that has shaken many in the faith community.
The truth is, this wasn't an affair, not even close. What actually happened was the mistreatment of a child. And not just any child, but someone under the age of 12. That's the horrifying reality we're dealing with here. According to the original report published by The Olympian, things came to a head in May 2024, when Kevin Mills was officially arrested. At that time, he was charged with first-degree abuse of a child. But what made this even more devastating was the detail that emerged in that same report. The victim was a member of his own family. Let that sink in for a moment. Earlier, I mentioned that Mills is a married father of 3. He has 3 daughters, and according to that initial report, the child involved was one of them, his own daughter. Are you hearing this? A man who stood in the pulpit, who sang gospel songs, who preached about faith and righteousness, he was arrested for allegedly committing one of the most unthinkable acts imaginable, and against his own child. It's beyond heartbreaking. It's enraging. Let's rewind to 2023. That's when Kevin Mills's wife first discovered something disturbing. At the time, she believed her husband was having an affair with a young woman. Remember, Kevin was serving as an associate pastor at Rochester Life Assembly of God during this period. After learning what she thought was infidelity, the couple reportedly went to the lead pastor of the church to disclose what had happened. But here's where things take a troubling turn. Instead of reporting the situation to law enforcement, as clergy are legally required to do, the lead pastor chose a different path. According to reports, he prayed with the couple multiple times and told Mills, essentially, "Don't do it again." He claimed he never saw any signs that Mills had repeated the behavior. But that's not the point. The moment he heard what was described, he should have contacted authorities. Clergy are mandated reporters, and failing to act in such a serious situation is a major breach of responsibility. And during all this, there's no indication that Kevin Mills was removed from his pastoral duties. It appears he continued serving as associate pastor without interruption. Fast forward to early May 2024, and the case finally begins to unravel. A family friend, who also happened to be a business partner of Mills, remembered the conversation from the previous year about the supposed affair. But this friend had also witnessed something deeply unsettling. Mills allegedly mistreating a child under a blanket. That moment raised serious alarm bells. It was then that the truth began to surface. This wasn't an affair. This was something far more sinister. And the victim was his own daughter. The family friend confronted Mills and his wife in a group conversation, urging him to do the right thing. "You've got to turn yourself in," they reportedly said. And that's when the path toward justice finally began. Kevin Mills' wife was reportedly devastated. Around the time she first learned of what she believed was an affair, she spoke about how their family had just experienced what she described as the best year of their lives, at least from a business standpoint. But despite the gravity of what she had uncovered, she didn't want to break up the family. She didn't want her husband to go to jail. And that's where things become even more heartbreaking. Because if she had knowledge of this in 2023, and all signs point to that being the case, then she chose not to report it. According to the Olympian, the victim was allegedly one of Mills's own daughters. That fact alone makes the situation almost unbearable to process. Why not turn him in? Why not protect the child first? It's a question that haunts anyone who hears this story. Eventually, it wasn't the wife, the church, or even Kevin Mills himself who contacted law enforcement. It was the family friend, the same business partner who had confronted Mills and urged him to come clean. After realizing the full extent of what had happened, and after hearing Mills's refusal to take responsibility, the friend finally reported it to the authorities. That act, delayed though it was what ultimately led to Mills's arrest. As the reality of his impending arrest began to set in, Kevin Mills reportedly started transferring assets and property into his wife's name, clearly anticipating legal consequences. Once law enforcement was finally informed of the situation, they reached out to the lead pastor at Rochester Life Assembly of God with a pressing question. "You knew about this for a year. Why didn't you report it?" The pastor's response? He claimed he didn't understand the full extent of what had happened. According to him, Mills and his wife had come to him with what he believed were allegations of an affair, not a criminal act involving a child. He said he had no idea the situation was as serious as it turned out to be. Then, at the end of May 2024, law enforcement arrived at Kevin Mills' home. They asked where his family was, and Mills reportedly told them they weren't there. He was arrested on the spot. As mentioned earlier, the original charge was first-degree H-Khalees harassment of a child, a charge that carries a potential maximum sentence of life in prison. But in July 2025, Mills accepted a plea deal. He pleaded guilty to lesser charges of H-Khalees misconduct involving a minor. And that's where the sentencing took a dramatic turn. On October 24th, during the sentencing hearing, the judge handed down a significantly reduced sentence. Mills was sentenced to 34 months in state prison, 26 months of partial confinement, and 2 separate 12-month sentences in a local jail. It's unclear how these sentences will be served, whether consecutively or concurrently, but it appears that the final decision rests with the county prosecutor. For many, this outcome feels like a miscarriage of justice. A man accused of abusing his own daughter, who held a position of spiritual authority, received a sentence that some would argue doesn't reflect the severity of the crime. It's a painful reminder of how plea deals can reshape the course of a case and how accountability can sometimes feel out of reach.
Whether Kevin Mills receives credit for time served remains to be seen, but looking at the situation as it stands, it's hard not to feel frustrated. If everything plays out as expected, he could end up serving just a few years, maybe 5, maybe 6, between state prison, local jail, and partial confinement. And that's it. That's it. For someone accused of such a horrific crime, especially if the allegations involving his own daughter are to be believed, this outcome feels like a staggering lack of accountability. And then there's the fact that his wife reportedly knew about it back in 2023, but chose not to report it because she didn't want to break up the family. What do you even say to that? I still have so many questions. Did the church knowingly allow Kevin Mills to continue serving as associate pastor after the initial disclosure? Why wasn't the lead pastor charged, given that clergy are mandated reporters? How did this go unreported for so long? There's a lot here that doesn't sit right. But for now, that's the report on Kevin Mills' sentencing. I want to hear from you in the comments section. Maybe you attended Rochester Life Assembly of God. Maybe you still do. Were you there when all of this was happening? Or perhaps you were part of Prairie Community Church in Canada, the church his parents founded. If so, share your experience. Your voice matters. Your insight helps shed light on the bigger picture. And don't forget, if you found this video informative or important, please hit that like button. We're aiming for 1,000 likes to help get this story in front of more people. It's a quick and easy way to support what I do. Also, share the video across your social media platforms to further increase its visibility and help expose the truth. Let's keep the conversation going.